guys, George here. Welcome back to my channel. I got a new amp, the Mesa Mark 525. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions. I'm going to go through some of the features of this amp. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here I have a Mark 525 head through a 212 rectifier cab on casters. The color is black and cream, and I just fell in love with the look, the aesthetic. Mesa's really good at making all these custom grills. You can contact them directly and it'll take about a month or two, but you can change these grills out to a plethora of options that they have. Let's take a closer look at the head and see what these switches and knobs do. Essentially, this amp has 2 different channels with 3 modes on each channel. Each channel is foot switchable, but the modes aren't. So you have to have it set on the mode that you want when you switch to that channel if you're using the foot switch. The controls you'll see starting here, gain, treble, mid, bass, those actually are coming in before the preamp, meaning these controls are shaping the sound and personality of each of the channels more than just making them brighter or have more bass like the graphic EQ does. We'll get to that in a second. This is the most misunderstood concept about these amps and why some people struggle to get a good sound out of them. I've also found that the importance in terms of how much gain and how much volume you're getting goes from left to right. So gain being the most important, then treble, then mid. Now all the way at the end of the amp, you have the graphic EQ. Now this is where you can fine tune the sound. If you want more bass, if you want to drop those mids, you know, scooping the mids, that's very typical of what you do on a Mesa because they are a little mid-range heavy. So when you drop them out, they become really focused. If you need more treble, that's all done right here through the graphic EQ. And you can turn that on or off for either channel. There's an independent switch for each channel. Further down, you can switch between a 25 watt and a 10 watt mode. This amp is just 25 watts, but through this 212, it sounds huge. And 25 watts is often way too big for my apartment to handle. The only knob missing from the front of this amp is reverb, but don't worry, there's 2 reverb knobs on the back, 1 for each channel. On the first channel, you have clean, fat, and you have crunch. So clean and fat are kind of similar, except fat has a little bit more girth to it, but they're both meant to be kind of clean channels with more headroom. I've seen in another video on YouTube where Doug West of Mesa Boogie is talking about the fat channel and saying it's basically a channel from the Mark 1. And a cool thing about this channel that is very Mark 1-ish is the mid control past the halfway mark, the 12 o'clock mark, whatever you want to call it, it actually turns into a boost. So a dedicated mid gain boost that adds a lot. And that's only for channel 1, that's not on channel 2. So yeah, clean channel, kind of that high headroom, super clean. Fat, it breaks up a little earlier and overall more weight to the sound. I'm gonna play you guys some stuff from these 2 channels so you can hear what they sound like. Okay, so now if I flip it over from clean to fat, there's not going to be too much of a difference initially. It did beef up a little bit, but what I like to do with this channel is push it. So I'm going to push the gain knob, I'm going to push the mid boost, and come a little bit back on the volume so I don't blow my ears out. And it gets a real nice kind of like vintage Fender Bassman sound. So the crunch setting is a little crazy because it doesn't feel like it belongs on this channel just because of how much gain it has. On lower settings, it does clean up a bit, and it cleans up well with your guitar's volume as well, but you can turn it up and play hard rock and even some like metal rhythms as well. I think it's also the most Marshall-like setting on the amp. One of the most popular Mesa Boogies of all time, the Mark II C+, is also featured on this Mark V. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this amp just to experiment with this channel, and I will say it's the most dynamic setting of the second channel. Let's hear some rhythm and lead stuff on the Mark II C+. Now to the Mark IV. It's like the Mark II C+, just more. The extreme setting, it's like extreme. I don't know. It's more than I'd ever need. It's kind of voiced like the Mark IV, but just so much more bass, so much more low end, super aggressive. I don't think I'd find a need for it, but I can definitely see a lot of musical applications where it'll work really well. I went ahead and bought this amp for a few reasons. I was really missing that really big sound you get from a larger size amp and cabinet. I used to have a Marshall JCM 2000, and I missed the sound of that half-stacked 412 cabinet. Now that was overkill for a lot of the stuff that I was doing, but this 212 sounds huge and definitely scratches that itch. This amp was a no-brainer for me. It's 25 watts and weighs only 16 pounds. Now if I'm carrying this to a gig or to a recording session, it weighs virtually nothing. And the cab is quite heavy. I think it's almost 80 pounds, 75 pounds, but it is on casters and it has strong handles, so you can lug it around. It's not too bad. Another huge reason is the cab clone direct input on the back of this amp. So living in an apartment in New York City, if I want to record late at night, sometimes turning on my amp is just not a good idea. You can switch off the cab, plug this straight into your audio interface and record at any time you want, and you're not going to bother anybody. That's a super convenient feature that you're seeing in a lot more modern amps, and I think that it just makes recording a lot easier if you don't want to mic it up. I do like the sound of a microphone on a cabinet or two microphones on a cabinet. That sounds great too, but sometimes it's just not practical. Another reason that I bought this Mesa Boogie is that earlier this year I saw Gibson's acquisition of Mesa Boogie. I'm not gonna lie, that kind of worried me with Gibson's track record. I know they've kind of turned a new leaf recently, but before anything bad happens, I just wanted to get a Mesa Boogie. This is an amazing boutique amp in a small handmade package. It surpassed my expectations in terms of sound, build, quality, and versatility. What you heard today was just the amp. The reverb comes from the amp, and I had a little bit of delay coming through the effects loop in the back. Please let me know if you guys have any questions in the comment section below. I know it's sometimes hard to dial this amp in, and I'd love to help you out as I had some time to work with it and figure it out. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, please smash that like button below. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. It helps the channel out a lot. I'm going to be putting out a lot more guitar and music related content in the near future. So until next time, see ya.